Hey guys, Steve here from advrider.life. Hope you're all safe and well. In today's episode I wanted to talk a little bit about route planning and specifically route planning with the brand new 2020 Africa Twin, because things have changed and it's not quite as easy as what it was before. You may remember that I've come from a 2017 Africa Twin. And if you remember the cockpit of that particular bike, there was a bar that kind of sat around there. The cockpit was much bigger than what the 2020 model is, and on that bar I had a TomTom sat navigation. Now the TomTom, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but there's an app called My Drive. It's a really cool app, and you can plan your route, pick what roads you want, all that kind of thing. You can go, avoid motorways, you can go straight, you can go twisty routes, all that kind of thing, and you just basically upload it to TomTom and off you go. Now there isn't as much things to attach a satellite navigation to this 2020 model, and to be honest I didn't really want to do that anyway, so I'm looking into alternative ways in how to do that. So as you can see, the cockpit of the 2020 Africa Twin is very much smaller than the 2017 model. There's not as much here, the windscreen is not quite as tall, and there's not many places where you could put a TomTom in there or a Garmin or that kind of thing. So you've got to really rely on this screen here. Now thankfully you do get Apple CarPlay with this, or the equivalent for Android, and that's fantastic. So it means you've got access to Spotify, Apple Music, telephone calls, text messages, all that kind of thing. And the way it connects to it is just via this, a USB cable that you have to buy separately that plugs into this little rubber section here, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass. I do need to figure out a better way of keeping that in there, because the cable tends to kind of pull this out, so that's not ideal. I need to figure something out with that. But the reason I got the kind of coiled USB cable is so that it's got that bit of flexibility when it's plugged into the phone, which I have attached to the bars using a quad lock here. So let's get the phone on the bike and plugged in. So if we put the ignition on, you'll be able to see Apple CarPlay kick in and come up onto the screen once it's started up. So it'll come on, it'll take a couple of minutes. The one thing to remember with this is it won't actually bring Apple CarPlay up unless it's hooked up to a Bluetooth headset. So whether that's built into your helmet like mine, or you've just got a pair of Bluetooth earphones, that type of thing, you will not actually get Apple CarPlay up on the screen unless it can hook up to a Bluetooth headset. So just remember that when you're putting it on there. So you can see now that Apple CarPlay has come up. So if you're familiar with this, it's very similar to what you would get, well, it's exactly the same as what you would get into the car. Now, the limitations come in when you start to look at the navigation apps that's actually available for Apple CarPlay. So we've got Apple's version of Maps on there. We've got Google Maps. I've got TomTom Go on there, and I've got Waze. Now, with all of these apps which I've had a play with, not one of them will take a GPX file, which is quite annoying, because if you like to plan your rides, you usually like to plan the type of roads that you want to go on. Sometimes someone's told you about a particular road that you need to go on to, and you do spend a little bit of time planning your map, which I'll show you in a second on the laptop. But none of these apps at the moment will accept a GPX file. So I'm going to show you how I kind of get around that. So the software that I use is something called Kurviger.de. It's a free to use piece of software, very similar to Google Maps, but it's just got those added little bits and pieces that makes the creation of a route that much easier. So let's plan a quick route so you can see how it works. So let's say we are going from Leeds, and we are going to go to a biker favourite and go to Applecross. If you've not done the Applecross crossing, I thoroughly recommend it. Just don't do it in high winds like I did and you'll get blown off the top. But anyway, so the benefit of this is you can now play with the types of routes. So you've got basically straight up the motorway, or you can include a bit of motorways but include a few twisty roads, or you can do that version which is the curvy route which avoids cities and highways, or there's that route which really does hit all the curvy roads. Now the great thing is with each one of these is it will make a difference to the time down here. So if you're planning a day's ride and let's say you want to ride 5 or 6 hours or something each day, you can play around with this and just get it to where you want it to be really. So you can see I've gone from the motorway, which is 9 hours and 20 minutes, to a little bit less motorway, 10 hours and 30 minutes, to a bit more curvy, 12 hours and 37 minutes, to really curvy, avoiding everything, 14 hours and 54 minutes. So you can see that the routes that you take, and it's changing it on the map here as well. Obviously the more curvy your route and you're avoiding motorways, it is going to take longer, but it's just such an easy thing to work with, and you can save all your routes, you can plan it up there. So at the moment, for example, I've been planning a trip up to Scotland, up to the Shetland Islands, and you can plan all your routes in there, and then we're off down to the Orkney Islands once we've been down there, and then back onto the mainland and back through Scotland, back down to Leeds. But the great thing about this as well is you can then export your route. So if you come down to the export button down here, so let's say I wanted to just export this particular part of the trip, click export, and then it will bring up what type of files, and it will actually export into all kinds of different files here, but for the purposes of this demonstration we just want a .gpx file and just export that out. So the other piece of software that I'm using for this demonstration is an app for the Beeline Moto, which I don't know if you've seen, but it's an absolutely fantastic piece of kit. It's a little device that sits on your handlebars and basically tells you satellite navigation instructions. So the little arrow, it works on like a little gimbal compass type of thing, so as you move your bike around, the arrow changes and you just follow the direction of the arrow basically. Now I don't have one of these devices, but I am using the app that you would use for one of these devices, which I will show you how I'm going to use the app now. So once you've downloaded the Beeline Bike Navigation app either from Apple App Store or the Google Play Store if you're on Android, open the app up, and after a short sign up process which is completely free, takes 2 seconds, you'll be asked where to go. So the first thing to do is to click on the where to field, and then you will see 3 dots in the top right hand corner. Click on that, and then it will give you some options, and the one that you want is right at the bottom, which says import GPX file. Now this is the GPX file that we got from Kurviger.de that you exported from the software. So click on import GPX. I've just saved it to the iCloud drive because I'm on a Mac. Locate the file, click on that, and then what it'll do is it'll import the GPX file into the app. It'll show you what the route looks like, and then once you're happy with that, press go, and then it will show you the navigation side of it, and I will show you now how that sits onto the bike. And this is what the final setup looks like. So I've got my Apple CarPlay on there playing Spotify, calls, whatever, and then I have my iPhone down here with the Beeline app actually working out the navigation for me. So I don't have any need at this moment in time to actually get the Beeline device. To be honest, I'm not sure where I would put it. I suppose it could go on the bars here, somewhere like that. But actually, that's only going to show me exactly the same as what is on that screen there. Now, it takes a little bit of getting used to this, but you know, once you do get used to it, it's a very nice, simplified way of navigating around somewhere. And obviously, when you stop, you can check to see, you know, where you are and that kind of thing if you want to adjust your route. hopefully that's given you some idea of route planning, or how I do my route planning now that I've got the 2020 Africa Twin, because it does have some limitations when we've now got to deal with Apple CarPlay. But any of the software and the apps and stuff that I've mentioned can be used for any particular type of route planning. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe, please comment below, and let me know what you think. Cheers.